All right, welcome back to the program. It's time right now to bring in my guest. We will be talking about fighting illicit financial flows in the country from the perspective of CIFCEN, I guess, because I don't want to begin to pronounce that mouthful. I have, I have the president and the chairman of Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Examiners of Nigeria. So you see why I just went straight to the acronym.
Yes.
Dr. ILiyasu Gashinbaki, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And I have Professor Suleiman Aruwa, who is the second deputy president of the same institute.
Thank you
welcome,
very much,
Prof.
Nancy.
Now, where should we start from? I want us to start from the background. I will go into the illicit financial flows later. But when I took a look at the transition of the bill that your organization or your institute is seeking for it to be passed before the National Assembly, it was sponsored by, I think, Honorable Yusuf, was introduced to the House on March 2nd of this year and passed for second reading April 29th. Yes. Speak to us, speak to my viewers about that transition and perhaps the furore that we've seen so far, so that we can take it on that level.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy. I think our bill is one of the bills that have had, let me say, accelerated passage in the House of Representatives. And I want to use this opportunity to thank members of the National Assembly, especially the House of Reps members, for the kind of support they have given to the bill, and the fact that they also are quite aware that the passage of that bill by them, both the first, second reading, and also the public hearing, now we are awaiting the final passage, will probably be the greatest contribution of the 9th Assembly in the area of the fight against corruption, and they know it, and that's the reason why it's been accorded and is treated with the deserved importance.
Prof, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. The popular question people used to ask about why do we want a charter? You see, we've been existing for the past 10 years. And you know that with the level of training and membership will produce over 10,000 members, you require some legal backup so that you can enhance your status in terms of setting standards of skills and knowledge that is required in the making of a forensic expert or a fraud examiner. We also went to the National Assembly to seek recognition so that we can have that power to regulate the conduct of our members and others who might want to join us in the future. And let me also say this, that if you see the initiative in anti-corruption fight in Nigeria is purely governmental. This one singular and most significant initiative from the private sector and is self-funded that is out to support the effort of the federal government in tackling corruption in Nigeria.
Okay, as you're seeking a legal framework to what you guys do, I'm also aware that there's the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Professionals of Nigeria that almost seemingly do what you guys do.
Yeah.
And I think they were also at that hearing, and they did say that, of course, there were issues about plagiarism, there were issues that, oh, this kind of thing has been passed before, I think by Honorable Abonta also, if I'm not mistaken, that why should you, in fact, it was even extended to Mr. President, but he did not assent to the bill. So, as an institute, and for the other institute too, which I've just spoken about, I don't know, your institute has so much long names, so, so isn't there that duplicity of roles? Let's take it from there.
Okay, let me respond to this. You see, let me give a context. If you look at issues of illicit financial flows in Africa, it amounts to about $88.6 billion annually. And by estimation of 90, out of this you have between 15 to 18 billion dollars annually from Nigeria. Then if you see our ranking by the 2020 Basel Anti-Money Laundering Index, we are worse off. Then if you also look at the Global Financial Integrity Group, we really have problem with issues of illicit financial flows in Nigeria. So, given this context, you see that you require a number of players to be able to tackle the issues associated with illicit financial flows in Nigeria. I am giving this context because we are pro-multiple players. We supported the institute you are talking about, but our activities predate that institute. I've said we existed we celebrated our decade anniversary just this year.
Yes.
So all we are asking for is to ask for a charter. And we at the time we made inroad into this environment, there was no player. And it was in the wisdom of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria to say, because our act has not mandated us to venture into this, they need to set up a society, an institute to run that. Now, the second thing is that if you look at the bill you are talking about and ours, there are very significant differences. Whereas we are focused on seeing crime, fraud as a multi-dimensional issue, they are seeing crime from one directional focus. And from us, we want to produce a multidisciplinary forensic expert and fraud examiners. We want to establish a college of forensics and fraud examiners that can interact with the universities, with professional bodies, and be able to bring the practice and theory of forensics and fraud examination to the burner. If I go ahead, I will also tell you that the bill you are talking is not institutional, as institutional. From the point that our sponsor is Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, that tells you that the over 40 years experience of ANAN has been brought to bear on that particular bill.
The question is, can't both institutes work together, really? Do you understand? Because we're talking about the issue of duplicity. For example, you now have the EFCC, what the police would not really do, because the police also can investigate fraud and all of that. They created EFCC. What the police should also do, they created FRSC. We're talking about even cost of government. I know it's private sector driven, but I'm just bringing this example. Is there a way that both can really work together, or we've gone past that now? You want to respond?
Yeah, basically, Nigeria has a population of about 200 million, probably going higher. And you've seen over the years, even with the formation of ICANN, ANAN, it led to what we call healthy competition. WEC, NECO, all these took us to where there is now healthy competition within the professional space. As obtainable in other jurisdictions, it is vital that that space is opened up. Let us have as many players as possible so that competition will be very healthy and it will be effective. At this point in time, the society, the institute, we are not excluding the possibility of working with others. For example, even ICANN, who seemingly had a counter position on the bill.
ICANN says that the objectives that you guys are seeking are already in the accounting profession,
so
forensics, fraud, and
I'm going
and it cannot exist without a primary profession. Forensics and co cannot exist without the primary profession, which is accounting.
Yes, so I will just explain that. So there's a need for Nigerians to understand that what we are offering is a platform that support healthy competition, that is developmental in nature, and that also the idea of either ICANN or any other person claiming that what we are doing is already in existence is not true. For example, the forensic accountant itself, even if you want to confine it to that, you have to do a bit of accounting, a bit of psychology, a bit of criminology, a bit of law. All these fused together is what makes a forensic accountant. And it is also very obvious. No, it can't.
Okay, so
What I'm saying, the forensic accountant, which of course, that is what ICANN is claiming that is part of their charter. We are saying that that is not known to law because there is nowhere in the ANAN charter or in the ICANN charter that they do forensic. Forensic is a specialized field of knowledge that combines different parts of different professions put together when you talk about the forensic accounting. But beyond forensic accounting itself, we have other areas of forensic that our institute cater for. So it's not just about forensic accounting that ICANN is talking about. And of course, why will ANAN, which is the sister professional body, promote this body since 10 years ago if it is injurious to the accounting profession?
So
of course it's not.
What I want to know and I want to understand is that what will your institute do differently than what ICANN and ANAN are doing?
Yes,
Okay.
Because
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, even though you said that it brings in snippets of every other profession, what are you guys going to be doing differently from what the investigative professionals are also doing?
Let me explain that. You see, Nigerians or everyone out there should not mistaken accounting for forensic experts or fraud examiners. Accountants are trained to prepare books of account in a true and fair manner, accurate, with integrity, for the use of all stakeholders. That's what we accountants are trained to do, and nothing more than that. So accountants, by their training, are not forensic experts. Accountants, by their training, are not fraud examiners. And with the quantum of the challenges we have, you can just, as Prof has said, we are talking about 15 to $18 billion in illicit financial flows in this country annually. That is almost, if you just use $15 billion, you are talking about almost 7 trillion plus, which is entirely almost half of the 13 trillion budget of FG. So it's monumental. We are talking about an issue that is threatening development, that is undermining growth in this country, that makes it impossible for Nigeria to achieve the 2030 SDG goals. The issues are very germane and fundamental that need to be tackled. So let me quickly say this. We should be developmental in our approach to seeing the views of growth of this country. Professional bodies should not be so steep to the past, so backward looking in the psyche of what they do. But rather, you can get to a certain stage as a professional body that you don't just look after your members, but you look at after the overall development of the country.
Okay, so we've established that ICANN opposed the bill, and then the sister organization promoting this bill. Is there any hope, really? Is there any way or any chance that we can see both ICANN and ANAN coming together to promote this?
Yes. Let me say this very clearly. Number one, like Mr. President has just spoken, the charter of ANAN and ICANN has not given them the mandate, and I'm sure you are aware ICANN is approaching the National Assembly to insert forensic accounting in their bill because they are aware they don't have such mandate to do that. And ANAN, recognizing that 10 years ago, established this institute. So that settles the matter that the capacity is not there. The ad hoc capacity of creating forensic faculties by ICANN cannot address the kind of enormity of skills, knowledge, proficiency required by the kind of fraud examiners and forensic experts we are talking about from our institute perspectives. So I want to say that, yes, ANAN and ICANN are working together already. We have seen them working together recently in the tax environment. We have seen them working under the Financial Reporting Council to promote financial reporting quality and audit governance. And in many spheres, as members, we work together. But I think the matter that you raised about working together harmoniously has to do with one, the old guards, the governance of the two bodies had other interests other than corporate interests. But as I'm talking, Annan, ICANN works together on many spheres. That they came to oppose this bill, for me, they didn't even oppose. What they were opposed to was that they were already attempting to bring forensic accounting into their bill. So they don't want to see somebody come into the realm, but they are wrong, because that environment is so large that we even pray that more players should come in. It brings collaboration, cooperation, but I can tell you in a
But is there a space that they can bring it in? Is there anything stopping them from adding to what?
Nothing stops them.
Yes.
We pray that they can do that. And if they do that, it brings a lot of healthy competition within the environment. And you leave the public to make a choice about the kind of institute profession that you want to patronize their service or you want to belong.
Okay.
So the space is open.
Yes, and let me add to what Prof said. Currently, we have ICANN members on our board, and we have a lot of ICANN members as members of this institute. So what bothers me is the fact that somehow maybe the media or a particular interest group within ICANN does not even have a clear appreciation or understanding
Maybe the
of
media,
what the issues
my
are.
community.
Yes,
Accusing us now.
because for
But to
example,
an extent, I have an idea of what you guys are
Yes.
talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
let
I
me
do.
add,
And that's why we're doing this show today.
yes, and to just buttress this fact, ICANN is about 66 years today. Now, an organization that has existed for more than half a century should think developmental about how to develop Nigeria. It's not about training of accountants at this point in time. You have passed that stage.
Yes.
They have reached what we call a maturity stage in professionalism. That what is paramount is how do we move the Nigerian economy forward?
Public
And
interest.
you cannot move this space forward if the space continue to be closed. And that is why maybe in the philosophical foundation of Annan and ICANN, Annan perhaps is looking at being a professional body from the development point of view. That is why they established the college. That is why they have established the Annan University. And now that is the same reason, 10 years ago, in their own wisdom, decided to also establish the institute. So it doesn't make sense and it doesn't add up if the two accounting bodies in this country, one, 10 years ago, decided that forensic is a specialized area, fraud examination is a specialized area that should be given prominence. I think it makes common sense that any counter from the other, it's just a misconception and misunderstanding that is internal.
Okay, let's go over to the methodology. I'm really interested into to how you would help recover stolen funds. I'm interested in that methodology. You know, how are you going to help in recovering the stolen funds? Because you're saying, Prof said earlier, that it's specialized. You must have some certain skills.
Yes.
You must be able to know a bit of everything. You must think like a thief, as it were. You know, so yeah. So how do you intend to recover stolen funds? Because if we are losing about $18 billion every year, that's huge.
Thank you very much. Currently, the Buhari's administration strategy is basically ramping up criminals, high-profile corrupt officials, prosecuting them, and secondly, improving governance systems in addressing corruption, and that's commendable. And when I talk about implementing governance systems, I'm talking about the TSA and, of course, the whistleblowing policy. Now, how are we going to be helpful? From the point of prosecution, you see that currently the data at hand indicates that less than 30% of criminals have been prosecuted successfully in this country. And that's because of poor investigation, weak prosecution. This institute is training professionals that will be able to give litigation support in terms of expert witness, is in terms of diligent investigation that can be defended before courts of law in Nigeria. And we are also helping to train people that can come as private investigators who can, when you have a whistleblowing policy, you should be able to train professionals that can do the job. It's not just a streetsman job to just come and blow whistle. You know your rights, you know your techniques, forensic techniques you should use to be able to bring up information that when you present that information before the government agency, it is credible. We are training people to do that. Again, I want to say that the college we are establishing is going to handle the issue of forensic training, delivery, and research. As we are talking, no Nigerian university has successfully mounted either undergraduate or postgraduate program in this area, excepting, of course, National State University, Kefi, and University of Lagos that are running master's and diploma programs respectively. We want to engage universities through this institute to see that they can mount these programs and produce experts that can support the security agencies and anti-corruption agencies in dealing with this.
So that's how you're going to, you will collaborate with law enforcement agencies,
certainly,
perhaps the EFCCs, the ICPCs of this world, and
the DSS and co.
And all of that.
Yes, in addition, just to add to what Prof has said, because there's also this confusion that, okay, maybe the Institute is competing with law enforcement agencies. That's not the case. It's collaboration. What we are doing is complementary, and the capacity support that we are going to provide is not just for the law enforcement agencies and tertiary institution, but critical arms of government like the National Assembly. We will also be very deliberate in making sure that we prepare them for proper oversight functions. And training of judges, even in the judiciary, there is a need to prepare them, because if you want to have the conviction rates to go up, while on one leg you have to do a lot from the law enforcement side, you have to do a lot also from the point of view of the judges, so that they understand the emerging issues, the current realities in the space of forensics and fraud examination. So you can see, when you combine all this together, there is no way that we will not push back the monumental illicit financial flows that goes around. And then again, don't forget, if we are talking about almost 15 to 18 billion dollars in illicit flows annually, would the African Continental Trade Free Trade Agreement now, with that zone coming into reality, you discover that that number will go up, because the cross-border, because illicit financial flow basically is moving money or capital across border illegally.
Okay.
Now, you know very well that institutions like the NFIU will now have greater burden in making sure they trace and track.
I want you to
and we
add,
have to give them the support.
I want you to add also financial institutions, because for it to move from border to border, it must pass through a system, and those systems are normally financial institutions, banks especially.
Yes.
Is there a way that we can have that collaboration also with banks or financial institutions to combat that illicit financial flows or insider-related abuses?
Yes, let me tell you, as we are speaking currently, the Central Bank of Nigeria has a professional fraud examiners. The NDIC have fraud examiners. We are working with the CBN, we are working with the NDIC, we are working with the regulatory body for the insurance zones to ensure that we can combat bank fraud, insurance fraud, and associated financial fraud within the sector. And what are we saying? We are looking for an institute that will mobilize these professionals that are existing, improve them in terms of proficiency training, and also let's regulate how we are doing these things. You can't leave regulation to this industry, to these other to CAB and NDIC. There must be an independent institute that can bring some standards of skills, knowledge that must be acquired, regulate them so that there can be some hallmark of trust and quality in what we deliver to the public.
You know, we've heard so much about recovered assets, recovered loot. Today we hear from this, tomorrow we hear from that.
Yeah.
How do you really think that these recovered loots should be accounted for? We had the one of the $43 million at the Ikoyi residence some time ago. For now, I cannot say this is where this money is or where the case is really. Where's that money domiciled? Because it was cash. Have we used it? Nobody can say, and nobody is even forthcoming. So for recovered loots such as those and some others that are still being recovered, how do you think that we can properly account for it? Just beyond what EFCC will come and tell us,
Okay.
or what, you know.
Yeah, I think on that, the progress is being made. For example, the current EFCC chairman made it very clear that what they are going to do henceforth is to make sure that the entire process is digitalized and so that these things are captured properly and whenever
is it henceforth from now? How about the ones that have happened before?
yes,
Is what
so,
I'm
so,
saying.
so
I don't know if you understand what I'm
yes,
saying.
so the role of the institute will be, like I said, we will work in complementary basis with them, help build their capacity, help show them the pitfalls here and there. What has happened before, we can only revisit it to check what has happened. But going forward, I'm telling you what the chair has said. And I think we Nigerians should give him that benefit of doubt that he has said henceforth.
Perhaps we should start from auditing what has happened before. Because I won't be okay with, let's start from now. There were some things before.
Yes.
Yes.
Assets before. What I would, and I think that's also where people like you and even the National Assembly
and the
should be
Honorable
interested.
Justice Salami report also has made some far-reaching recommendations. So I so much believe that by the time the white paper comes out, as regarding what is exactly the position of government, regarding all those beautiful recommendations he has made, it will address that permanently.
Prof, we have less than 3 minutes to end this program. What do you think is the biggest lacuna that is facing the government in fighting corruption? Because this president came in on 3 pillars. I will fight corruption, I will tackle the economy, and I would curb insecurity. The 3, we are seemingly failing in all the 3, at least 2. Perhaps the government will disagree with me somehow, but the economy isn't doing well. There's rising insecurity. So how do you think that this government should fight corruption henceforth?
Oh, thank you very much, Nancy. You see, the major challenge to the fight against corruption in Nigeria are that, one, the mechanisms, systems, institutions are too weak to tackle the impunity associated with corrupt practices in Nigeria. There is no institutional autonomy. They are underfunded. They have ill-equipped forensic labs to tackle these issues. Then let me remind us that far back 2017, this government approved a national anti-corruption strategy with 5 pillars. Up to this moment, it has not been implemented. These are aspects that stakeholders like us can come in and help manifest the fruits of this strategy into reality. And I want to say that going forward, we must look at the EFCC Act, ICPC Act, and see how we can grant them that autonomy. You see, I don't want to hear independent or that they are already don't have the autonomy, even from their act. We want to see a situation that the chairman of ICPC or EFCC can exude a lot of independence, even in his appointment and in his response to issues about anti-corruption. I'm happy also the current chairman has stated very clearly operational procedures within the EFCC to drive this. So I think implementation of the strategy and strengthening of the institution can help us combat corruption in this country.
Dr. Gashinbaki, very quickly, any final word?
Well, yes, the final word here is that this government came on 3 pillars: security, economy, and anti-corruption. Now, the greatest takeaway by this government will be the passage of the Institute Bill. Because it's one thing, with all the recoveries that we have made, they are just policies that with one executive order, you reverse it. And if we don't have another president that is so committed to anti-corruption and the follow-up on these recoveries, we'll go back to square one. How do you then ensure that there is continuity? Is by institutionalizing the process. What is the fundamental way of institutionalizing that process? Is by passing the charter of the Institute. Because when you do that, you now have an independent, self-accounting, self-funded, self-regulated professional body that is charged with training forensic specialists and fraud examiners that will complement the effort of law enforcement agencies, the judiciary, the National Assembly, the private sector, and the financial institutions.
Okay. And perhaps for my community also come,
The
I'm
media.
interested, yes, because
The media.
part of what we do is also holding government to account.
Yes,
Yeah.
public
And
accountability.
investigation,
Yes.
investigative journalism.
Yes, investigative journalism, and of course the NGOs, all that put together.
Okay.
We need to work together to move the country forward.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nancy. Our pleasure.
All right, I've been
Thank you,
speaking with Dr. ILiyasu Gashinbaki, who is the President and Chairman, Governing Council, Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Examiners of Nigeria. Also joining me today is Professor Suleiman Aruwa, the second Deputy President of the same institute, Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Examiners of Nigeria. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for joining us. Please keep a date with us again tomorrow, God willing. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. Have a fantastic day. Bye now.